Well, hello, hello, hello there. How are you? LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hi, welcome to Grit and Grace Presents Sowed from the Scar, Leaving a Legacy Through Grace with our special facilitator guest, Lori Smith, CEO of Accuelegant. Oh, by the way, y'all know Lori, and I'm about to bring everybody on. Let me get this down so you can see Lori and I. Welcome. I just want to say, what a pleasure. It's been a minute, girl. Lori and I go way back for more than 2 years. Lori and I were on Demystifying Government Contracting, a weekly podcast where we talked about government contracting and helping people educate themselves about success and starting in government contracting. But today, she's a special guest on a session, a program that I've started with two other amazing women, Rochelle Hemingway, the Slay Queen, and Yolanda Tate. Is all about elevating. But before we get started, I want to welcome you. You're in the right place at the right time, because tonight we continue to talk about grace, grit, and grace. If you missed it, you don't have to miss it again, because we are going to be back on June 5th. And you can, guess what? You can register. You can go to Eventbrite. We're going to be in the Woodbridge location with Veterans Growing America. And, Grit and Grace is all about women in the veteran and military community. That's military spouses. That's women, veterans. If you just have a heart for women of service, or you are a woman of service. And oh, by the way, guys, sorry, no few good men allowed here. Only women. So tonight we're sharing a continuation of the Grit and Grace series. We had an event in March for Women's History Month, and it was an amazing time where we just talked about empowering ourselves and improving ourselves and just walking in our power and strength and being strong with grit, but also giving ourselves grace. We had a space where stories spark healing, leadership rises from real life, and legacy isn't just discussed, it's sown. If you're joining us live, let us know that you're here. Come on in the chat, and let me see here, get some comments. Come on in, let us know you're here, and put grit if you're here, or grace, and let's go. And while we're starting, please introduce yourself. If you have a business, please tell us what that business is, who you are, what you're all about, or just tell us who you are as a person and where you're trying to go. We want to build community, and that is what we're all about. But before we go any further, I would be remiss if I did not recognize our special guest the subject for tonight is going to be Sowed from the Scar, Leaving a Legacy Through Grace. But here's the truth. Sometimes what breaks you is the very thing that God uses to bless others through you and for you to bless others. So this fireside chat is part of our countdown to the Women of Grit and Grace Empowerment event happening June 5th in Woodbridge, Virginia, a live in-person activation of success for women, as I said, military women and spouses. It's a sisterhood, it's a sanctuary, and it's a strategy session for the soul and success. So our speaker, Lori Smith, as I said, we have been longtime sisters in service. She's an amazing Air Force veteran. She is a retired senior master sergeant, has been in the contracting field all of her life, soon to be Dr. Lori Smith, because she's finalizing her PhD. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's the founder of not only her company, but a nonprofit called Sowing Our Seeds. That's why this particular session is perfect. And she has an amazing story, a powerful story of healing, identity, and legacy. She didn't just survive. And let me just tell you, she is amazing because she had a tremendously successful military career and a successful federal career where she retired out of the Department of Veteran Affairs as a senior acquisition professional, ensuring that veterans got their care. And she's done all of this as a single parent. She's now married to the wonderful, amazing man of her dreams. But most of her military career, she was a single parent, and she braved that journey as well as others. And so, Lori, let's go ahead and get started. How's that? Just tell everybody hello.
Hello, how is everybody doing? I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a story about a scar that became a seed of purpose.
As I went through these questions Michelle sent me, I said, oh man, she had me go deep. And what I realized is that sometimes we overlook where it all starts. Mm-hmm. And because we overlook where it all starts, sometimes our healing takes a little bit longer. But my scar actually began, as a high school junior, when, the school counselor told me that college wasn't for me. And that moment, it hit me differently because despite my stellar academic achievements, the assumption was that because my mother was a janitor, my future had already been written. That was my limit, not my stepping stone. But those weren't, the words that God had spoken over my life. That was not his promise he had made to me. So those words actually became the scar that would fuel my resilience, not to be well spoken of by anybody, but to walk in excellence in everything that I did and I was doing it unto the Lord. And that scar became my seed of purpose, pushing me to create spaces for others, to grow, overcome, and excel. I don't hear you, Michelle.
Wow, Lori, I want to say that is absolutely, just an amazing point. So how did you transform that, that moment of someone thinking less of you, which I'm sure at that point in your life, it left a scar, it left a mark, right? Mm-hmm. How did you turn that and transform that into something not only that you could be, but how does that determine how you sow into others?
Well, what I was able to do is Grace allowed me to transform that pain into something that I could plant, by shifting my perspective, so it took what was meant to limit me, and turned it into a launching pad. So instead of, letting those words, define, my future, Grace allowed me to see them as a challenge to rise, above and to prove that my potential wasn't, tied to, my circumstance. Grace gave me that clarity, to recognize that, my mother's hard work, as a janitor wasn't, a limitation. That was a testimony, of resilience, of sacrifice and, of the power of purpose. It planted in me, conviction that my worth wasn't defined by, beginnings, but by the impact that I chose to make. That grace, and that is the grace that became that fertile soil, which I planted my dreams, so it fueled my desire to create opportunities for others to build platforms, so that's what I did with, Sowing Our Seeds Empowerment, Active, Elegant, and Focus Wise, that is where, I created opportunities and spaces where the underestimated, can rise, thrive and create legacies, of their own. And so Grace took my scar, mm-hmm. And turned it into a seed of power, a seed of purpose, reminded me that sometimes, our deepest wound, can produce the most powerful growth.
Absolutely. And your scar story, has really become a seed for, for sowing our seeds, right?
Mhm.
Of
Absolutely.
just
Mhm.
bringing community together. And so, before we get into talking about, the strategy of sowing and how you've sown and what you've sown, talk about who you've mentored and or been influenced by because of your scar story.
Well, again, your questions had me thinking. So as I reflected, my 41 years of service, and even, since I retired from the military, what I realize is that, mentorship, has been a constant thread, both, not just as me mentoring someone else, but also as a mentee.
Mhm.
So I've had the privilege, of guiding countless individuals, to excellence, and by sharing what I've learned, imparting whatever kind of wisdom I have to them, encouraging them to reach, their full potential. But my journey would not have been as successful, or it wouldn't have been possible without the influence of those who also have poured into me. So for, whether it was my mother, who taught me the value of hard work, and integrity, or Minister Sam Tauber. He was our first chairman, our deacon board at my home church, who he inspired all us young people to be entrepreneurs. I mean, I've been shaped by a lot of wonderful people, former supervisors, such as Karen Armstrong. She was my first African American supervisor, female, when I came on active duty in the military. And she taught me how it is, was, and would be throughout my career. And that, facilitated my trajectory. I had Mrs. Pinkowski. She was the first white woman that I had as a supervisor. But what she did was she facilitated my ability to implement what the church had taught me into the workspace. So she reaffirmed, hey, those women that you grew up with that was nurturing you, they did you right. So I was able to have that safe space to implement what I had been taught as I was growing up into the work environment. Connie Marshall, a young supervisor, but she taught me, hey, Lori, regardless of how hard you work, how great you are, how nice you are, how kind you are, there will still be someone that will take advantage of you. And then LaVon Shingler, she was my last commander that I had, in the Air Force. And what she taught me is that, hey, again, you can serve and continue to serve, do well for folks, and I love the Lord in doing that, and then just have a heart of service, and allow, and it's okay to walk in the path that God has ordained for you. And then since I've met you, your mentorship, you show me leadership, you've helped me understand that, hey, resilience ain't just something, I thought about, or I'm the only one that dealt with things. I saw my scar in you. So because of that, it's been important to as I go, what y'all have taught me is that whether it's leadership, resilience, the importance of lifting is also helping as you climb. So
Yeah.
as I go and as I impart, it ain't just about me. Who am I lifting as I climb? And
Wow.
so because of your guidance, I've been able to, mentor others, planting seeds of confidence, excellence, and purpose. And so this is just a reminder that legacy that we leave isn't just in our achievements, but, in the lives, impacted along the way.
So we've heard your scar story. And first of all, let me just say thank you for acknowledging me, giving me flowers. I'm truly touched, and it was unexpected. I'm so thankful, because I always tell people I'm not trying to touch everybody, just those
Mhm.
God has assigned me to. And so I'm truly touched that for that confirmation that
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
doing what I've been assigned to do. Right?
Mhm.
So we've heard your scar story. We've heard about who's planted in you, who you've planted in, and let's now talk about what does sowing legacy look like in your life right now.
So what it looks like now for me is it's me creating pathways. So when I look at what I'm doing, and I'm not creating pathways for myself, it's me creating pathways for others.
Yes.
So through Sowing Our Seeds Empowerment, I'm creating a pathway for veterans and women and other
Yes.
minority
And tell us about
entrepreneurs.
that. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that.
Well, the Sowing Our Seeds Empowerment, that's my nonprofit. Whereas in the idea and intent is, what I want to do is make sure people have the resources and the tools that they need in order to navigate, and thrive in the government as well as corporate contracting space, or just thrive in business, period. And it's looking at it from a holistic perspective. Whereas in we're just not focusing on business entrepreneurship, or you're a business owner and these are business related things, but we're looking at, everyone from a whole. What do you need to empower you, motivate you, from a health perspective, holistic perspective? How are you taking care of yourselves? As we present ourselves, we present ourselves not just in competency, but in confidence. And how do we do that? By understanding, what makes us, why we are beautiful inside out. What are those things that we need to have in order to make us feel more confident in our own skins, and those things, that whether it's etiquette, whether it's financial literacy, was understanding all of these things that we need in order to be complete and whole, because we're all smart. We're smart people. So there are some tools and some resources that we need in order to continue to develop and to grow. And the more secure we are in the questions being answered, because there's a lot of questions that people have, and more often than not, folks are gatekeeping information and not giving people the answer. There's no harm with me giving you the answer, contrary as it may sound, and I will reap whatever reward that the Lord has for me in doing so. And so let me give you the answer, because you need the answer. There's no need for everything to be nickel and dime. So let me give it to you and hope. Will you eventually ultimately pay for excellent service? Absolutely. But when you get it, when you do provide whatever resource you provide someone, we should be giving you so much more of value, of worth, and something that's going to sustain you, where you're not calling, worrying me every day and Sunday too. So Sowing Our Seeds is the mirror of my for-profit organization, Archaeology. Because again, the same mission, the same desire is to, again, make sure we are equipping these small businesses for their needs, so that you'll be able to operate in these spaces. And regardless of whether, it's a network or a complex system, we're facilitating your ability to navigate those kind of things. And we can only do that through legacy building, right? Yeah. I also have a new venture that I show it through. It's called Focus Wise, and that's going to be launching soon. Focus Wise is a PBC. And so what we're doing is dedicating our time and supporting veterans, again, in underserved communities as they navigate their careers. So it's like making sure folks facilitate that training and mentorship, as they learn to define their past. Sometimes what we find and what we see is that we have a lot of skill and, again, excellent and trained and competent people, but we haven't been nurtured to go and achieve a lot of the opportunities that are available for us. And because someone hasn't told us, these are the rules of engagement, this is how you play this game, and this is what you need to do, and this is what this means. And so when we're able to share that information with people, that facilitate us being able to, again, build legacy. And then lastly, of course, I support underserved youth in various capacities and ways. And what I'm doing in that vein and establishing legacy, I'm investing in futures, where I'm helping them beyond, their current situations and circumstances, so that they can realize their various potentials. So for me, sowing legacy, isn't just about, what I build, but about who I lift up along the way. And it's also about planting seeds that will grow into strong, impactful legacy for others.
Great. I'm sorry, I was losing battery, so I was trying to plug in. Thank you so much. So as we talk about, the scar, and then who's planted into you, and then now the legacy. What I want to know is, and I think I would like to bring my fellow facilitators on when they're ready to ask you some questions, because they're backstage. Because this is what you're going to get when you come to the June 5th Grit and Grace event. Deep conversations, getting an opportunity to tell your story in community, and to get support. Also to partner with people, who are like-minded, whether it's in business, whether it's in nonprofit or sisterhood. Now what I'd like to do is, now that we talked about the scar, the planting season, the sowing strategy. Um, Ladies, I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to add Rochelle Hemingway to the stage, and then I'll bring Yolanda up when she's ready. Rochelle Hemingway, the Slay Queen, hello, leadership, Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, retired, image consultant, transition expert, and my sister in service. I'm just so proud of you and so excited about what we're doing with Grit and Grace. So you can, whatever I left out, you can tell people a little bit about yourself and just how I called the babies leaped in our bellies when we, finally got a chance to connect. And this is the result of it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing all of that, GI. But that's a lot. That's a mouthful. And Lori, I mean, so many things that you touched on that I definitely want to pull a little bit, just so that way the audience, whoever the participants, can get a little taste of what we're gonna be providing for them. And I'll tell you, this is going to be a treat. When they said that Lori was coming, like GI's like, Lori's coming, I was like, I've been stalking you on LinkedIn for a minute.
We're stalking each other. Thank you for that safe opening. Wink, wink.
And so, when the sisters get together, this is the community that we like to be in, where people just know from someone who knows someone who knows someone. And it's the same type of energy, and we are all on the same pathway. Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about legacy, there was a couple of questions that came up for me. So the first one, I do want to take a step back. And, you were talking through your mother was a janitor, and they automatically assumed that you weren't going to be able to go to college. So tell us what mindset shift occurred, because I know there's a lot of women who stay in a place where they don't see themselves outside of what they're already been told, the narrative. So, it's interesting how we get from that point to no. I know that was not an easy thing. Were there any positive affirmations? Were there the people around you, someone else that was giving you, support and encouragement? What did that look like for you?
Well, my blessing, and I do consider it a blessing, is that I probably did not have the typical childhood of the average girl growing up in the hood. I lived my life inside of the church, and I'm grateful for that. And that was the thing when she said it. And I think she only said it after she overheard someone else in the office, talking, with me, and knew that I was, Miss Washington was my mom. And so when she said it, I was taken aback because, again, girl, I'm up here rocking the top 15 to 20% of students. What you talking about? Mm-hmm. And because you felt that my mom, we weren't worthy. And so I just let it go right there. And again, for me, I did have to revert back to my faith because I understood, I said, wait a minute, God, that ain't what God done told me. Yeah. I read a couple of scriptures that, that refute that. And so that was what I had to go back and pull from. Not that it did not hurt, because again, here it was yet another adult, trying to make us be. And I say us be because, again, I done lived my life in a house full of girls. It was 6 girls, 2 boys.
Wow.
In church growing up, the idea, the mindset was, house full of girls. The only thing we were ever going to be is pregnant and, and just no good.
Mhm.
So I done had, church hurt, family hurt, I'm the seventh out of eight, the knee baby.
Mm.
The one child that says somebody in Leola's house got to pay attention to what she's saying. So of course I got sibling coming at me thinking I'm all of this and that. And so for me to be doing what in my head was,
Mhm.
hey, I'm the good girl. I'm the good child. I'm trying to, I
Mm.
love the Lord and I'm trying to respect and help my mom,
Yeah.
get through raising 8 babies by herself. What you gonna tell me? You coming at me now? Because I done heard it
Mm.
everywhere else. But what I realized from a mindset perspective, even then, he was preparing me for such a time as this. God knew throughout my life that that would be a journey and a thing that I needed to deal with at that point in time, because for so many women, especially for us that are raised in the hood and raised in certain environments, and we don't have all the means as others, someone is always beating us down and trying to snuff out our
Mm.
dreams and our aspiration. And there is so much talent inside of these
Mm.
communities. So who are you not to be serving in a capacity of servitude?
Yeah.
So for me, I really had to rely on what my mom had lived in front of me, because to be a woman with 8 kids, I'm a junior in high school now, but my daddy walked out on my mama when I was barely 2 years old because he didn't want a
Mm.
sanctified wife. And I don't have no play uncles. My mama left this world with her reputation intact. And never
Mm.
an occurrence when someone walked up to us, whereas, oh, your mama do this. No, she worked hard. She taught us integrity. She taught us what it meant to commit, not only to being a
Mm.
mother and raising your kids, but to serving God. So that was the thing. And again, being around a community of women who were serving in the faith that lifted us up, and having again Minister Sam Tarver, he as our chairman, he had already inspired us. We knew what we had the ability to do. So I just had that support system and not even realizing it, but it was the backup that I needed and the wall that I needed to hold me up when that woman said that.
Wow. That's so powerful. And I know that someone's blessed already with that information because it's true. The narrative is, sometimes in society that women are here is where your places are. This is
Mm-hmm.
what you're supposed to be doing. If you try to be ambitious or highly driven or, chase after your dream, that's a no. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not for you. Those are for other people. That's not for you. And sometimes when we listen to that, that's when we get the self-doubt, the low confidence, the low self-esteem,
Absolutely.
even
Mm-hmm.
at our age,
Yes.
where
Mm-hmm.
we have been there, done that, got a million t-shirts for it.
Mm-hmm.
But something or somebody gets in our way and gets us into this thought that we can't achieve more.
Mm-hmm.
We we
Absolutely.
we are capped. All right. We've already found
Yep.
success in a certain area. We are now capped, right? And so understanding that there is more and there is a calling on your life, is really listening for what that is. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that
You're
with
welcome.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yolanda, I'm going to pass it on over to you, my queen, for a question, a comment.
You know what? I was just listening. I am still going back to the beginning of the story. So, Lori, I always like to go back to the beginning because to me, that's where the healing begins and
Oh,
that's what
absolutely.
heals
Mm-hmm.
everyone else. And so, in the beginning of your story, I was just like, woo, that was that part right there when you talked about what was meant to limit you became a launching pad.
Mm-hmm.
That right there hit deep because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about for us as women, a lot of times it's a reminder that those labels,
Mm.
that those lies, that
Yeah.
those limiting beliefs, that those words that people speak over our lives, especially in our most fragile seasons. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, when you were in high school and you were young and you just learning, to have somebody speak that over your life
Mm-hmm.
and be able to take that and change that around, that's nothing but God's grace.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
have to bring it back to spiritually because God gives us the strength to be able to turn what was meant for our evil into good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you did. So
Oh,
his grace allowed you to have that permission to rise up, to speak, to sow, to plant seeds into others as you continue to becoming. And so one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, for any women that's watching or who will watch this later on, um, I guess I would ask, what would you say to that woman out there that still has scars, but knows that her pain has a purpose, but she's not yet ready to lead or show up for herself or to
mm-hmm.
plant seeds in others? What kind of advice would you give her?
Well, to someone afraid to sow because they are still healing, from that scar, my advice to them is one, trust the process. Now, we may think that's a bit cliche, but we have to trust the process, but then also be mindful that healing and sowing are not separate, right? And so sometimes, they're going to often happen together. And so it's that very act of giving, it's going to be that very act of planting that your healing is actually going to be accelerated. So we can be hurt. Okay. We cannot be completely whole. Okay. But our job is not to sit down. And so to keep it spiritual, and Michelle will tell you, I do love the Lord. I wrote a little Bible verse down here, and I'm going to read this Bible verse because I want to get it right. Don't want to misquote Jesus, right? So what we have to do is be mindful that the Bible reminds us in 2 Corinthians, the 12th chapter and 9th verse, and this is a KJV version. It said, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weaknesses. So your healing it doesn't disqualify you from sowing. So that's what we have to be mindful of, that we're going to have scars, and that don't disqualify us. It can actually qualify you to reach others, in a deeper, more meaningful way. Because see, sometimes our healing is not even for us. It's for someone else. I used to tell young girls, throughout the military, hey, how we behave, how we carry ourselves. You may be trying to turn Jimmy on over there. Well, Jimmy really ain't studying you. So you got Jimmy hot and heavy, and Jimmy gonna go seek out the Sarah, because Sarah is the girl he wants. So we have to be mindful of that. How our pain, our scars, the healing of it may not be for us. It's going to be for someone else. And so we have to work through that. Then another scripture is Psalms 126, verses 5-6. It says, they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. It says, he that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. So even in their sowing, even if you're sowing through your tears, you're sowing through your hurt, the harvest is going to come. So your pain is not the end of your story. It's just a part of the journey and our purpose. So we have to still plant those seeds, even if our heart is hurting. Yes. We are not going to give up. We're going to continue to push forth, because at the end of the day, what we don't have to be is whole to be impactful.
Oh my goodness. Say that again. I say that all the time. Yes.
Yeah, we don't have to be whole to be impactful. We're going to work through this hurt, because even through this hurt, we're still going to get harvest. And so the thing of it is that through your hurt, I tell people all the time, I live in pain, have been living in pain for about 20 years now. Everyone's like, girl, how do you deal with it? The medicine don't heal me or don't take nothing away. But what I am mindful of is God has promised me that through his stripes, I am healed. So through this journey that I have to walk, someone got to see me moving forward in pain. Someone got to see my struggle. Someone got to know at the end of the day, what we don't have permission to do is just sit there and just soak in it. No, get on up, move forward. Our bodies may be worn, but our brains aren't.
Yes.
And so as women, especially women of color, we have been systematically silenced. And that's why even through when I came up with the idea Focus Wise and work with some other women, we're not getting job interviews because, hey, we go in there and one, nobody has told us the rules of engagements and the science behind the interview process. Two, we're not used to hearing our self-talk because ain't nobody ask us nothing. So I need you to go practice these questions, listen to how you sound, so that when you go in here, you're not fumbling over anything. That is not a new concept to you. It's the same thing they asking. And you'll get this job because you are the most qualified. But those are the things that we have to do. We have to get out there, work through the hurt, because it don't disqualify us. As a matter of fact, it makes you the most valuable player, out there in the field.
Oh, that is so good. That's so enriching. And it's something that I live by, because we have to advocate for ourselves, but you got to learn how to be your own advocate.
Oh,
We're out
absolutely.
here advocating and supporting everyone else. And we're sewing in a lot of times, especially as Black women, we're sewing into people, but sometimes we feel like we're not being sold into. But a lot of times we may not know how to allow ourselves to be able to be sold into, because we're
And,
so used to doing other things. And so
and
that's
when
what's important.
exactly. And I know what I had to learn over time is that even as we go, you have to be mindful to just acknowledge and recognize when the moment is happening. I often tell people, we heard, oh, be careful what you pray for. And so we'll say things. And when God do the thing that we asked him to do, one, we're not recognizing that he's answered the prayer, because it didn't come in the form that we wanted it in, but we told him, Lord, your will be done. So if it's his will, this is how he answering it. Okay, Jesus, thank you for that. And so we have to be mindful to witness and appreciate, when I'm in a near miss accident, oh Lord, I'm thanking you. Somebody else may just be, oh, you crazy. So, no, oh, Jesus, thank you. Because again, I could have been in an accident.
That's right.
When I since I've been in business, have people stolen my ideas, tried call me for the answer and not give me credit for answer. Oh, absolutely. But you do you. Because at the end of the day, you will have to still call somebody else back to get the next part of the question. I can answer the question that you had in my sleep. So I'm good. I'm still going to pour that information into someone. And so that's what we have to be mindful of. We are human. And if we don't go identify the actual scar, sometimes we just go through the motion. But we have to be, and what I learned early, and my blessing is God did not give me hurt through life. And so because I didn't hurt through life like most, the things, because I made a decision to pay attention, to listen, go to school, do what I'm supposed to do, go to work, do what I'm supposed to do, at home, do what I'm supposed to do. My life was different. So I didn't go through with a whole lot of scars and different things. But I recognized when you was trying to take my joy. And when she told me she didn't think college was for me because, you just realized that Miss Washington, my mama, you thinking you ain't gonna look at my grades? Girl, I've been on the magazine staff, the newspaper staff. We don't want awards. What you talking about? But I was like, oh, okay, that's you. Okay, all right. Y'all just see. And they saw. So you don't let it, we can't let it get, because people are going to talk. And so my blessing was God allowed me to overcome people hurt early on in my life. And the process of doing that, he protected my heart. And so in protecting my heart, I'm always in a place of serving. And my spiritual as well as natural gifts are service, hospitality, and help. So I operate in that.
Oh, that is awesome. That is a powerful story, how you turned that around. And so that is a blessing right there. And you know what? We had to go spiritually because, when God is in the room, he's going to allow it to come out. So, yeah, I am just so grateful for that conversation and for your transparency. That was really good. So, GI is back.
Yes. Well, y'all were just having so much fun. I said, let me not get in the way, but I was in the background being blessed. And Lori is just that girl. Okay. She is that girl that is going to just bring the best out, and God will always be acknowledged. And I think, her success. And just think about the grace she's even given to that teacher who used her tongue to harm a child, right? And then her grit that just got her through. So ladies, we're at 7:40, but before we go, Now, Lori you've already seen Lori is a welcome addition. She's going to fit right in. But we do have to talk about what it is people are in store for on June 5th. And let me get back here because I am going to bring up the banner, the flyer. And I want y'all to tell her how it is, tell the audience what they're in store for, and look, just go ahead and tell them. If you could turn your cameras off for a minute so that the overlay will look right. Yeah, just go ahead and tell them what they're in store for and what an amazing time we had. Let's start with Yolanda and then Rochelle.
So everyone, our first event was something that was so powerful that the ladies are still talking about it and yearning for this event on June the 5th. It was not just powerful, it was impactful, it was community. People left not just with a sisterhood, but they left with strategies that they can use in their lives in areas that maybe they are struggling with. Maybe they are struggling with still those limiting beliefs or words that people have said over their lives, or they even said to themselves. We discussed that. There were conversations that were had that went really deep, where it wasn't surface level, where there was some people could share their stories and their testimonies. So that's why when Lori was talking about how people are watching you, your story, your healing, the process that you go through, which I call the ugly middle that we all have to go through, but that process is important. That process happens so that we can be a testimony, so that we can sow into others to maybe help them so they don't have to go through that same hurt or pain that we went through. And so this Women of Grit and Grace, our women empowerment event, we just invite every woman to come, to be a part of it, to experience it. Trust me, you will not leave the same, and it will leave a lasting impression on your life. And so for us, I just want to say, let's rise, let's slay, and let's elevate. And we'll see you on June the 5th. All right, Rochelle.
Rochelle, you there?
Oh, where's Slay Queen go?
Let me see. Let me add. Okay.
I'm here. I think what's happening is I don't know how to get fancy like y'all. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Well, we hear you and we see you. You on screen.
Okay.
Yeah, and we see
All
you.
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I can remove myself from the stage and then be able to hear me as well. So I apologize.
No. I just wanted you to turn off your camera just so it doesn't block your.
Okay.
Just hide your camera. Sorry.
Let me see here, y'all.
So it should have two things at the bottom: start camera, mute. There you go. We're good. We got you. Rochelle, you still there? You still there? I hear you. I see you, but I don't hear you. It says you're still here. Rochelle?
I think she went to the backstage.
Yeah, no, she did something because now she's there. Okay, add to stage. Okay, we just go ahead, Rochelle. Oh, perfect. Gotcha.
Oh, yes. Okay, y'all. I apologize for that.
No worries. No worries.
So I think one of the most profound things that happened at our last event was breakthrough from one conversation. You know, sometimes it just takes the one time where you go into a room of women who have walked in sort of the same paths. Being in the military and being a military spouse or affiliated with the military is a certain lifestyle that not a lot of people understand. And when you do have a community that gets it, and where you're being seen, you're being heard, your feelings are validated, there's nothing more powerful than that. And I saw, again, conversations being had where people were leaving out going, wow, I never really thought about it from that perspective. Thank you so much for giving us another way to look at this. The whole premise of what we're trying to do is to really create the synergy. There's a lot of different communities within communities within communities that we are all being asked, or sometimes we're in, and we just needed to provide a space. And this space, I'll tell you, is just some of the most incredible and inspirational and empowering women that I ever have known in my entire life. And y'all, I am at a certain point in my life where, we have seen, I have done a lot of different things, and I don't just attach myself with just anybody. Okay. Because in this season, there's a lot more things that, I want, and I want the people that are around me to have. So you don't want to miss this event. All right. You don't want to have FOMO. All right. When FOMO is, you're looking at, well, I should have been there. Fear of missing out. All right. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have that. You want to just go ahead and register and join us. All right. And you have, access to so many other women throughout the DMV. And we do have Lori's coming from out of town to join us. But we're here, like the flyer says, to rise above, slay to success, and elevate to wellness. And we want to see you there. We want to see you there, and we want you to be able to experience what I just shared with you. So thank you, and we'll see you in the room.
In the room, yes.
In the room.
Yes. So, perfect. I am going to take the banner down now so that you can see these beautiful faces of folks that are going facilitating the June 5th session. So it's all going to be about rise, slay, shine, elevate, and sow. So we're going to have breakout groups. We're going to have panels. And oh, by the way, if you are a woman-owned business and you want to be a vendor, I'm telling you, these are some shopping ladies now. I'm just saying, there's some amazing clothes, amazing products. Yolanda's got a coaching program and journal. Rochelle has a book as well and has services. Lori has services. So please come out and fellowship. We're going to eat good. We're going to fellowship good. But most of all, we want to help you go through this transition because there's people who are going through. I was talking to a small business owner today, and she said, I miss community. Like, I gained strength from hearing the strength of others, especially other women. And so I think, during these, what I call dynamic, uncertain times, right? We need each other. This is a time not to isolate, but to come together and collaborate. And that is what Grit and Grace is all about. I hope you'll join us. We're looking forward to seeing you. Special thanks to Lori Smith for joining us. Next week, we're going to have Yolanda. We're going to interview Yolanda. No, next week. Who's next week? Oh, sorry, Rochelle. Got them out of order. But anyway, you're going to get each week, you're going to get a chance to come and hear more about the story behind our amazing facilitators. And we may even have one more special guest because I don't want to interview myself.
Oh, there we go.
So anyway, we'll see you on June 5th. But just to get a taste, appetizer for what you're in store for, join us next Tuesday, where we'll be showcasing Rochelle Hemingway, hearing her story about how she slayed to success, and can't wait to hear that. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Lori. We look forward to seeing you. Well, I'll see you soon next week. But anyway, we'll see you also on June 5th. And thanks for joining us. Your story has inspired me. Thank you to my fellow Grit and Grace facilitators and founders. Love you so much, and I appreciate you. Good night. We'll see you later.
And I thank you all, and thank you to my
Bye,
new
everyone.
friends.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.